All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Global Virtual Solutions Hybrid Event Platform Demo. My name is Natasha Carter, and I will be your guide today as we canvas through a market-leading virtual event studio that's based right here in Greater Philadelphia. Today, joining me are presenters, and on the big screen are Richard Stewart and Christian Sluter. They are managing executives at Voc Doms North America, the lead agency in the collective behind Global Virtual Solutions. And in a minute, Richard and Christian will share more about this platform and also step in as sample guest speakers. So you guys are in for a treat. Also joining us today are assistant producers Reginald Nelson and Jason Cataldi with our tech partnership with Choice Live. They will be in the same Zoom stream as all of you, our clients, who we have affectionately dubbed the Pat Jones 7. So if anybody can see me and has their camera on, could you just wave back at me so I know that you guys are not just cardboard cutouts? Okay, we got a couple of people waving back at me. Today's program will be about 1 hour's time in length, with 20 to 25 minutes for a scripted demo and 35 to 40 minutes that's for an open Q&A where you can share your ideas, you can ask questions. But just as a housekeeping note that we ask that you raise your hand if you have a question so I can invite you into the conversation and everyone can hear you loud and clear in the stream. And with that, let's get started. We're going to skip the formality of any pre-event staging and go right to the countdown and video. I hope you enjoy. Well, hopefully that video provided a glimpse of the many advantages that our compelling virtual studio has to offer and give you some ideas of how you can creatively apply that to your future event. Right now, I would like to ask Richard and Christian to elaborate on the functionalities and the features of this unique hybrid event platform. Take it away, Christian.
Thank you very much. Welcome also from my side. I am currently in Tallinn in Estonia, so we sort of have a global event already, what we are showing here today. Um, Before we go into the details of the studio and the possibilities we have there, we want to show just a couple of slides with regards to how we see what happened after COVID hit us, and a little bit, a few words for those who don't know us about Voc Dams. So already, thanks on behalf of Choice Live, Embark Creative, and Voc Dams for listening. And yeah, a short introduction from our side. We are a global operating event agency, founded in Germany Years ago, we always say 50 sounds old. That's why we call it 40 plus years, as you see on the chart. We are a family owned and operated agency, so we are not belonging to a network or something. So we are completely independent with 18 offices around the world and currently approximately 300 employees. We also made it to a couple of awards. Nevertheless, this is not the reason why we are here. This is just something we are totally happy with and proof that what we are doing is 143 times at least right. So next slide, please. Where do we come from? We are known as a live marketing agency, and that was our job basically, at least here in Europe, until the 6th of March of this year. So we were creating wow moments on events, exhibitions, festivals, conferences, management summits, and whatsoever. But as we all know, that changed a little bit on that date, and still we are thinking of creating emotions, and we love to do that in live opportunities, as seen here, for example, in Germany, when we celebrated Bayer's 150th anniversary with lots of their employees in the soccer stadium in the hometown of Bayer. Right now, of course, the situation is different. Nevertheless, the preconditions didn't really change from our side, and that's what we see at the next slide. Um, that what can we do to, on the one hand, keep a keep an engaging event mechanism, despite the fact that we are not being able to get together in these times, and still get emotions across, because that's what we all need, what every brand needs, what every product needs. So we cannot stop our achievements and operations that we've done in the past. So we just have to adjust them to the current situation. And on the next slide, we see we are now, and that's what we had to do, is focus on hybrid events. Hybrid events has, and that we'll see that a little bit later. Um, Hybrid events basically have three three options. On the one hand, we'll have, and that's always, of course, depending a little bit to the country we are working in, have the possibility to have people live at an event, but increase the audience because due to regulations or because they're not willing to travel and whatsoever, increase the audience on a digital channel and platform. So overall, there is, and that's what we see on the next slide, a quote: "No more than ever is the time not only to be close to your target groups, but to actively approach them, ask questions, interact, co-create, and embrace the power of your community." That's basically what we've done in real life events the entire time. But even now, this is still possible, and I think we have a couple of tools that we see as valuable for the future. And for that, we developed a couple of moments of success that we've summarized in on the next slide. So we did a couple of studies and found out what is the, let's say, the success factors of live events. Why are and how can we get people, despite the fact that they are not being able to be on site, still integrated and interactive into events. And here, participation, interaction, and co-creation is one of the factors that are extremely important to us. So our type of events need some kind of interaction. It goes beyond webinars or pure Q&As. We all know webinars where there is a stream that you can watch for 45 minutes, one person talking on the screen, and basically once you've watched the entire webinar, the online event is finished, and you might have the chance to ask a couple of questions in the Q&A chat or whatever. But we think, and we know by now, that getting people involved and let them interact with us the entire time is extremely important. Second fact is the haptic moment. The haptic moment you have when you enter an event site. If you go on site, if you see how it's built up, you have places where you can, I don't know, where you have catering, where you have a lot of interactive things because there are people. And this haptic moment is something we found out is valuable, and it's something that is really easy to achieve. So if you have a defined target group that is going to listen to your or that's going to join your event, your virtual event, why not sending them something in advance? And we've done that a couple of times, and that was really appreciated by the people attended. It must not necessarily be something big. It could be, I don't know, a coffee mug and a couple of coffee beans, so they can prepare their coffee for this live event. Or I don't know, if you do something in the evening, send them a bag of potato chips or whatever, so that they have something that they can hold on to and that has somehow a relation to the event. Third thing is autonomy and freedom of choice. That's something that we'll stress later a little bit when Richard presents a part of the VOCDAMS platform that we can offer. Is nothing is more boring if you have to listen to the content that somebody tells you to listen to. So what is the nice thing, the nice part about a festival? You can go wherever you want, you can get the content wherever you want, you can choose what you do, and this also is possible in virtual and hybrid events. Providing a couple of chat rooms or interactive rooms, invite the people of co-creating things, invite the people of watching pre-produced content, for example, so that you have something on demand, give them the chance to attend the live parts, whatsoever. It's all about getting, having the freedom of choice. Fourth thing is something, of course, that we all experience when we are doing Skype conferences or other things. Content needs to be condensed and quick. It doesn't help us if we have a 1 or 2 hour one person speaking situation that at the end of the day gets boring in a certain way. So get the content in the shortest period of times across to your audience, and then they will be very happy and appreciate what you're doing. And then come up with breaks where you, I don't know, where people have the time to I don't know, answer a couple of emails, or if you provide some leisure things, some fun things, provide videos with stuff where people just can sit, relax, do something else for the moment before we need their full attention again to go back to the content that is really relevant. And last but not least, social and exclusive. Try to provide extra value by access to a relevant network. We have tools that, even though you are not attending an event, networking is still possible. And networking, as we found out, is the most important topic for lots of people that are attending events. And that's why we need a networking part virtual as well. Next slide shows the 3 immersion maturity levels of virtual events. We've spoken about that already a little bit. We have this classical landing pages and webinar thing that's streaming in one direction, translating live moments into the digital world. It's multi-dimensional, reproductions of event spaces and experiences. So it's not only a webinar where you sit in front of a picture talking and then that's it. Last but not least, the third level is then really creating interactive event canvases, immersive experience. So stuff that makes you forget that you are in front of your laptop rather than being at the event itself. And this is how the next slide shows a little bit how the curve developed. We all know in 2019, we were all doing live events the entire time. Everything was focused on live, and that was a very, very valuable brand experience. Then we had COVID-19, and we switched to a virtual experience. Everything had to be virtual because, as I mentioned before, content has to be brought across, and we had topics that we had to communicate in whatever area that we are working in. But now, as stuff opens up again, and if regulations, at least here in Europe for the moment, but that will happen in the US definitely as well, sooner or later, we are transferring this to hybrid, and hybrid is what I mentioned, and we think that's the future anyway. With lower budget, with reduced willingness to travel, with reduced possibilities to travel, and with the regulations that we have for COVID-19, we guess that hybrid events, so partially people on site, but increased digital viewers will, at the end of the day, be the future format. And we thought about that already a long time ago in enlarging our live events into social media, but even now it gets more relevant because the situation definitely changed a bit, and that's how it is right now. From here, I would like to hand over to Richard, who's telling us much more about the Virtual Conference Center and the VOCDAM's hybrid event platform. Thanks for listening, and I'll hear you back in the Q&As later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, guys, I should say a little bit up front to when I start here. I'll take this in two different pieces. First, I'd like to walk you through a bit the virtual event studio that we're in right now, where you're seeing those camera shots from different parts of the studio. Then in a second part, I'll talk more about the platform overall. The reason to do that is what you see here is kind of built for a consecutive event. When we're in this space, there's one thing happening after another. I know that for your virtual health fair, actually the way it would normally be is you have a lot of different experiences happening all at once. And in that case, we need another layer of platform in order to make that happen. I'll go through both of those today, but first, let's walk through our actual virtual event studio here. If you go to the next slide. Now, this isn't so much about the presentation itself. It's a little bit more about you seeing the functions and features of our virtual event studio. However, it does help to kind of point things out. So we have actually, as mentioned, this studio that's in the Philadelphia region. It's in lovely Collegeville, PA. We do have potential to do other studios in Philly, but this is really a global thing, and we have a standard set up behind it. You know, we're trying to strike from this slide where you saw from live, virtual to hybrid. We're kind of trying to strike the balance of what we can do live right now in the times of COVID-19. And where we've landed is having the stage and screen, having lovely Natasha or a live moderator on site, having you, the audience, on screen along with presenters. So these are the different parts that are in every studio. We do have an optional actual studio audience part as well, which we don't have set up today, but you see that kind of out in front of the stage. And of course, we've got a technical area, which can also be part of the setup. But you see the nice lighting and technical parts we have of this into the next slide. And we have these all over the world. So you've got different looks for different studios. If you have different things, in some cases you will want someone on stage presenting. In other cases, they could be on the screen. But different looks and feels with studios that are already built, which is a cost-effective measure for you, where you can do an event that has, again, multiple activations going on at the same time. Next. And as I mentioned, this is a global platform, so we're pretty much covering every time zone. For you guys, China would not necessarily be in play just time zone wise. But these are the areas where we have studios available for booking and use. Next slide. For studio and technology, I mean, you see what it is here. I just mentioned, you get this kind of nice, you can see the lighting in this space has been done very nicely. The LED brings definitely a different element to it. But with being on the web, we've got something that you didn't have to download anything to get onto here, and you're still seeing the feed. Then we're developing other areas for that as well. As Christian said, this is basically from March of this year we've been putting it together, so it's ever evolving. And yeah, for my money, the stage setup is having a custom set design in a virtual event is something that brings a lot of value to you, the client, but also to your guests. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about the people who are attending the event or participants. We've got the possibility for 8 speakers or presenters that can be on that large LED wall. I mentioned the in-studio potential for guests where we can do over 100 VIPs on iPads. And then, of course, you've got a live, huge live capabilities for video platforms. We're using Zoom today. But basically, this is a two-tiered, has two-tiered potential. One is having people who are engaging with the event. The other is people watching a stream online. Next slide. For us, one of the findings we've had is that the live moderator is a real key to making this work. In this case, it could be someone internally that you prefer to have moderating the event. We do have a set of professional moderators. Natasha's taking us through today. And this is a key critical piece to this event because this is what kind of brings the digital world back into the live world, gives you a feeling of emotion behind what you're seeing and a real human touch. We do have a bench of moderators if you've got separate areas that need separate people. And again, we can work with people that you provide to coach them up for using this studio in the best possible way. Next slide, please. In terms of speaker positions, also very flexible. You can do multiple speakers on a main screen in the sense of a panel session. You've got a possibility to do a main speaker just like I am now on the kind of side screen on the LED. Naturally, you can have a live person on stage, and we've done things specifically with entertainment. That's a comedian in that particular picture. And even being virtually on stage, which is pretty visually stunning for the audience. If you take a screen and flip it vertically, then you've got your live speaker perhaps talking to our moderator right on stage. Next slide, please. The audience gallery, of course, is could be multi-platform. We can use any platform that you prefer. Again, we're using Zoom today. In a little while, during the Q&A session, you'll see how that can be integrated into the event with people engaging with the moderator and the presenters. Next slide. And again, the studio audience that we can make very special. So imagine having iPads out in the audience. We pan the camera over them. Everybody's kind of waving and feeling a little bit special. It also gives the look and feel of having that live audience in the studio. And these people can then be engaged with one by one, either on the camera positions that we have in the studio or digitally just bringing people up on screen. Next slide. And finally, of course, you can stream out to anybody watching. Oftentimes we're using YouTube, Facebook Live. Many clients have their own platforms. The shot on the screen there is an event that we recently did for L'Oreal. And this I wanted to show you because today for our demo, we don't have a whole lot of fancy setups, but you can do a split screen that we create in pre-production to your specifications. We've got content on one side of the screen and the speaker on the other. We saw a little bit of that earlier. Next slide. And so the standard package that you get with this virtual studio is the studio that you book with a technical solution similar to what we're looking at today, the double LED screen included, the possibility for 8 speakers on stage, 1,000 participants plus, and then pretty much unlimited for who you stream out to. The VIP and studio participant solution, slides and films and graphics. This is a key part, maybe from events you've done in the past that are live. It's a little bit difficult to bring content in. You have to print something or you have to set up a screen. And in this case, we have everything digitally, so it's much easier to create really impactful graphics for you. It's just a little bit of time and, of course, some resources that we have to put into that. It's something you should consider for your virtual health fair, even if it's not been part previously. The moderator, of course, interaction via chat, which we'll look at in a little bit. We do include in our standard package 1 hour of rehearsals with your speakers up front, so we make sure they're not only connectivity and camera parts are correctly aligned, but also just to go over the content and fix anything we need to. And then another special thing of this is because it's digital, we can record it and provide it to you after the event. So then, again, you can extend the reach of the event even when the live event is finished. Next slide, please. And that's a little bit about the studio itself. Next, I'd like to walk you through the digital platform. You know, we have all these tools out there. And the reason we're starting here is you just saw a studio that you have linked into directly from Zoom today. In this case of your event having possibly multiple stations that you want separately, we really need a solution that people can drop into and use different activities at different times. And that's going to be using a number of these tools that are on the screen and more. What we do is we have a platform where we can choose the best tools based on the requirements that we've gathered from you and create the best experience for your requirements. So on the next slide. This is a kind of confusing chart about how that happens, but so we're taking all the tools that we've identified based on your requirements. It could include our virtual studio, normal virtual conferencing tools, pre-produced content, putting that together in the best possible way for your live event space, your hybrid event space, and also thinking about how we extend it outside of the hybrid event space into streaming possibilities. So all these things together happen in our kind of backstage, if you will. You don't need to necessarily deal with this so much, but what you get then is, next page, an interface that is specific for your event. This is from our own platform for live events. This can be customized in any way, but basically imagine having a splash page. You send out a link to your guests in advance. They come into here, then they're able to enter the event space. Next page, please. Where you've got laid out for them the different parts of your event. This is done very simply. We don't have all of your requirements yet, but imagine, you know, having a separate area for health, fitness, and charity, for example, with a welcome area that everyone would go into at a particular time. And when you come into that, you can give them the overview of what's going to happen during the event, how to use the tools, and a little bit of background about your virtual health fair. You can also have pre-produced content on here, along with sponsored content can be integrated. Next page. And once you start diving into that, imagine heading into a presentation area. And again, we can set things up a little bit more custom for you, but here you've got content on the left, the speaker or presenter on the top right of the screen, and then an integrated chat. Into that, you can do all kinds of audience engagement tools as well. Next. And you can bring live participants in an exclusive way. So let's say we have 25 participants in one particular room where they can engage with each other like a Zoom call. but more curated for your event. We can clean it up a little bit without really expending too much time, energy, or budget. Next page. And of course, you can have the expert or instructor on screen guiding a group of guests through a particular activity. Here, we're just thinking about fitness, for example. But we can make it, again, we have everything we need on the screen and nothing we don't. And that's part of the advantage of creating, in a more curated way, the event platform that you use. Next page. Audience engagement. You can go into deeper dives as well. In this case, we're just showing a tool that gives you an automatic word cloud based on information that people enter by their mobile phones. So this is, of course, is set up in advance. The presenter would come up with a question, just as a sample question. We chose what word defines good content. The audience would then send in their thoughts or their answers, and automatically on the screen, you'll build this word cloud where the larger words have more responses behind them. Once you've got, after a certain time period, the presenter can stop it and then use the information in real time to give back feedback to the audience. So you have this kind of two-way dialogue in a very technically smart and smooth way, and also visually appealing. There are more kind of next generation things we can do. Christian mentioned some kind of mixed reality stuff. We've done a lot of presentations this way, where the speaker can even be in a virtual way, looking like he's on stage with content. Online collaboration tools. In this case, we're using an online whiteboard tool where multiple people could be involved to create ideas around the topic, and you can think about how you can generate activities out of this. Audience engagement, again, having a kind of second screen with a mobile phone is something we've done a lot of. Keeps the focus for people. Their screen can stay set so they've got that nice view, but they can also contribute to the event through their mobile phone and engage in it. And in another kind of indirect opportunity, it takes people off their mobile phone to look at, whatever it is that people look at during virtual events these days. And finally, for your sponsors, you can do exhibition areas that are virtually created specific for that sponsor. Gives them really high value for the event that you're doing, and takes them in as if it's really a trade fair, or in this case, a health fair. Next page. Not everything needs to be fancy like that. Obviously, there's budget considerations behind that, but will also work with you to come up with ideas for fitness activities, or perhaps for certain presenters, when they're done, they go into a speaker lounge where an exclusive group of people can then speak with them kind of in a interactive group setting. Gifts and prizes can obviously be built into this platform as well. And for that, you don't need necessarily the studio. It's more just through apps and things like that. And finally, a powerful part of this is event analytics. Now that we're in a virtual world or a hybrid world, everything we're doing can be counted and tracked. And if you go to the next page, in terms of analytics, I've laid out a little bit for us what the different types of data you can get out of this. Some of it is behavioral, how guests interact with the content or with the presenters, or how they interact with other participants. Engagement, what is the difference between each presentation? How long are people staying on the screen? We can do it per slide, even if you really want to get technical about it, or per product or service. Experiential things like this would normally be on a live event, a survey. We can do a similar type of survey, or do some things automated in a digital world that help you understand the participants' level of engagement and their sentiment towards the event. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the post-event reach is massive for this. So you can, on the one hand, extend the event via recording to people who are unable to join it, or through automated tools that they can use. And on the other hand, after you've collected the contact information from the people that join, you can stay in touch with them after the event. Next page, please. Last part of this, I just wanted to briefly show you a few of the case studies of things we've done before. We do a lot of work with the United Nations. So this first picture is the United Nations Security Council meeting. I just wanted to show this as a potential multi-person on stage, yet social distance situation where you actually then have a third person who's large on the screen and your audience can be watching that. We can also bring the audience in on the screen, of course, so this can be more like a booth kind of look. Next. We've done a business survival summit. This was from in the Midwest here in the US, done in our Eastern European studio. In this case, you see there's a moderator sat nicely, comfortably on stage, and the presenters who look like they're having a good time on the screen with the audience coming in later. But this gives you a sense of how we can kind of play with graphics, make this look really visually appealing, and at the same time keep that human touch. Next. We've done a virtual fair for Education Nation. In this case, it was more like a panel session to begin, and then they broke out into separate experiences for people. This is a nonprofit kind of approach where they did a remote learning webinar. So they were teaching people how to use tools like we are using today. And finally, next page, a book launch that we did that perhaps has components similar to some of the things you might think about. It's not, of course, health and fitness related, but you've got on the top left corner here, entertainment that went on the screen where the person was made nice and big on the stage. You've got an expert on the top right there who's speaking to a crowd about a specific topic that turned then into a panel with 3 people kind of in a panel session. And then some fun and games on the bottom left. In this case, it was via group photo, but you got kind of everybody then on the main screen. They get a nice photo out of that. The moderators in this case were from the actual book launch crew, so they were able to also engage in that. And so this, I think, is a good place to end up, to show you the features and functionality of our tools. And I appreciate your attention today. Thanks. And I'll pass it back to Natasha.
Thank you, Richard. Well, that will conclude today's formal demo experience, but right now we would like to open the floor to a Q&A session where you can share your ideas and you can also ask questions about what we just went over. I see that a lot of people don't have their cameras on, so you can also utilize the text box to ask questions. Does anyone have any questions out there? Anyone?
I have a question.
Pam, do you have a question? Pam said she didn't have a question. Okay.
Here it's
Roseanne typed, she wanted to know how long does it take from the beginning to end for to start up.
Natasha,
Did you hear that? Sure,
No.
I can repeat that. Roseanne asked, how long does it take to put together an event from start to finish?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great thing to point out, because one of the things that we would like to express is, a lot of events that have gone from live to digital, the way you guys have, a lot of our clients even have thought about it as flipping a switch. You just switch over to virtual tools and go. But actually, it's not that way at all. At least not if you want to have a really high impactful event, while still saving potentially a lot of budget from your live event series. So for you guys, a virtual health fair, a lot of the work is going to be up front in defining the experiences you want to have, and us matching the tools to those experiences and kind of curating things. But if you're talking about using the virtual studio that we're showing you right now, and if you've got content, it's really minutes. You get us the content, we put it on the screen, we know who your presenters are. So a lot of clients are using this for meetings and things where really it's, we're setting up an hour in advance. So it can span this kind of longer time period, a very, very short time period range for you. But if you're talking about curating an event, think of it like a live event. If you've got a month or weeks in advance, we can get some nice things done that way.
Excellent.
Can this be done over multiple days?
Did you guys hear that? She said, can it be done over multiple days?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a studio that's here for you. We can do it over multiple days. We have, of course, bookings on these studios, so it is a bit subject to availability. But based on the program that you have in mind, absolutely can be set over multiple days. And think about it as if you've got a digital platform on top, you can kind of open up and shut down things between days or even between hours as the program demands.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw it in the presentation that the events have to be at 4 hours. Is that like a definite number? Hour, or can it go longer than that?
Yeah, that is a little bit more about the booking. Really, if you're going to do a 1 hour session, there's also kind of a pre-event time before that. So we find that the bookings end up being 4 hours anyway, even if your event's only a 1 hour period. But it's also kind of in terms of budget usage, normally that's the kind of starting point would be 4 hours of use is a block where we bring in this studio is obviously staffed with a technical crew and there's the moderator, et cetera, involved. So that's more of a guideline, I would say, but it's not a fixed requirement.
Okay, also, the breakout rooms that you had mentioned also, those can also go on simultaneously. So like if we're having different workshops that people can go into, that everything can be ran at that same time?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a little bit, you can think about it like a multi-studio environment. So we can do a little bit of that the way we're connected right now. You can be in one virtual studio and shoot out to another one. That is not ideal because the guests can't choose themselves where they're going. It still has to be a kind of consecutive time-wise event. But again, think about the platform. If you have a platform with 4 different windows of 4 different things going on at the same time, the guests can control when they enter and when they leave, and also the levels of engagement they have in each activity. So absolutely, you can do multiple at the same time. We have fixed studios. We can also do custom studios if you want. I know in the past, I think Pat mentioned you've done this event from your home office, which has a large space. We could set up a studio there. Of course, it's less cost efficient, but that is also a possibility where we create separate stages in separate places and run the activities at the same time.
Okay, so you're looking at a lot of staging. So you're looking more towards a hybrid platform than anything else, seems like.
But keep in mind, you can set up some activities maybe don't need a live component, or it can be a simpler chat room, or these can also be integrated in. So you can have multiple pieces that are not just on one stage. We could, in the space you're looking at right now, have multiple stages as well. That would just be a custom thing.
Okay, I have another question. I'm sorry. As far as like the administrative part for our events, like with registration and stuff. Will you be able to help us set that up that it can be a virtual or I guess well, it's going to have to be computerized. Some kind of way we're going to have to do like a registration.
World, our pre-COVID world, that's where, kind of our wheelhouse was in guest management, along with other parts of live events. So we absolutely have tools that we plug into this, where guests are now registering online and we get all the information we need from them and follow up, get them the link in advance. All of this can be packaged into this for sure.
Is actually a question on the screen that I don't believe was addressed from Roseanne. It says, will the info we provide have to be camera ready, or do we have the ability to create, or do you have the ability to create items for them?
Yeah, that's another piece of our capabilities is we call it media production. So if you've got content that you need put into a presentation format like we saw today, or a video format like we saw today, these are things that we can create for you. Graphics, design. These are all capabilities we have. They would be kind of fee for service based on the amount of time that we needed.
Does anyone else have any questions? You feel free to write in the text box or turn on your mic, I suppose.
I wonder if you guys might tell us a little bit about your event and how you're thinking about taking it digital.
Hi, I'm Tracy from the Health and Safety Fund. I know we have health and safety fairs, and I know we talked about having some virtual workshops, health-based workshops that we share nutrition, or maybe a cooking demonstration, or we haven't gone over the details yet. How many people does the platform support? If we had and it's just out of curiosity, and forgive me if you covered this already, but if we did have a live demonstration where maybe there was a fitness instructor and there was a group in that workshop, is it based on the package we choose, or is it whoever is invited to that workshop? Is there a cap on the participants?
Christian, I'm going to give you that one.
All right. Yeah. No, there is basically no cap on participants itself. So if you want to do a streaming session with an instructor or whatever, you have the three possibilities. You have the people that are on stage. Then you have up to 1,000 people in a Zoom call, as you are joining the session right now. And last but not least, or not last but not least, but the next option is inviting people via iPads and in the iPad arena, how we call it. So again, another probably 100 persons that could join the event exclusively. And last but not least, now it is like the stream that we are sending out can reach as many participants as we want. You know that from YouTube videos, from Netflix streamings, and all this kind of stuff. So there is no limitation as long as the people have internet, and of course, as long as we don't get millions and millions at the same time, then the best system at one point is overloaded. But I guess this is there. We don't talk about limitations when we are streaming things out to the public. We must not forget the people that are watching a stream. The only chance, if we want to have interaction, is of course via a chat that we have to include into the stream, but just watching the pure feed has no limitations.
I was just, we won't have millions and millions of people. I was just curious. Thank you.
Does anyone, is there any further questions today?
Hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just really quick, I'm not sure. I think that Jason may have answered the question already, but if we were to send you pictures or videos of the grounds at the school, will you be able to incorporate that into your platform?
Just clarification, you have, it would be pictures of your facility?
And this is from Pat. She wanted to know, yes, we have pictures and we have videos of the ground that maybe can be used as a visual piece during presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, custom content is any way you want it. We would, even think about, and I'm still thinking of this as a virtual health fair. So you would have we'd come up together with a key graphic, something that's on this LED screen that you see behind the presenters, for example. All of that is custom. The presentations are absolutely something that can be developed with the assets that you provide in the best possible way. So yeah, can be done.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, I think that's about it for now. And Pat will follow up with you on more details. And I think that'll be about it. But thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate it.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. If there's no further questions, we, on behalf of Global Virtual Solutions team, would like to thank you for attending our event today. And like we mentioned before, if you still have any questions after that, please follow up with Pat, and she will follow up with either Richard or Reginald. Again, thank you so much for attending our event today, and have a great afternoon.